I'm here. How are
Did I
you?
pronounce your name for me? Yasmin? Or
Yasmin, yes.
Yasmin, so good to see you. You are going to be our moderator today. We're so excited to have you. Because this is a panel discussion, I will end up turning it over to you to do the majority of the facilitation today. Before we get started, just a few announcements. If you were here for our morning sessions, you've probably heard this already. But we want to welcome you. Again, my name is Lee Bennett. I'm zooming in from Boston, Massachusetts. I'll be joined by my co-host soon, hopefully, Sarah Ortiz, who will be zooming in from Colombia. Um, I'm going to be taking care of any technical issues, so do reach out to me either via chat or just Yasmin, go ahead and just yell out to me and I will help if there's any difficulties. Please note, of course, that we are recording today's session. If any of the presenters would prefer not to be recorded, just let me know in advance and I will pause the recording. If any of the audience members would prefer not to be recorded, feel free to just keep your camera off. Um, Typically, our schedule is session for 75 minutes. Typically, I would be keeping time, but since today it's a panel, I will leave it up to Yasmin to do that. And just a reminder to make sure we have some time at the end for Q&A if possible, unless that will be facilitated throughout. So I will leave that up to you. Yes, and I think that is it. Let me start by asking if there are any questions before I hand it over to Yasmin.
Thank you, Lee, and welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to have this conversation with you all in this topic that is very important, how we spread narratives around many things that are important to us. In this case, this space is called Telling Our Stories, Connecting Indigenous Languages, Lands, and Community Resilience. And what we will see here and what we will speak about here is about stories that are related with lands, communities, people, memory, generation, and most important, what is connecting us through the land and the language. And we will see so many storytellings. These storytellings were a result about work made by Story Center and the Endangered Languages Project. We will screen these stories made by many language champions around the world, and we will divide this session into two parts. The first one, we will watch, we will see all these stories, and then we will have some dialogue with some of the participants to know more about them, about their stories, and about their motivations, and about how they feel doing all this work. And also, I want to remind you that we are an information handout you will find in the chat. And in that information handout, you can find the schedule of this session. And also you can learn more about the storytellers. We have the contact information there. If you like to reach out, well, let's begin then. Thank you and enjoy their stories. Hello, Anna, are you there with the screening of the stories?
Yeah, sorry about that. It looks like the screen share stopped.
And while Anna find this, oh, I think she's ready. Let's watch all these beautiful narratives made by these language champions.
오담네 추리디 체 예문이 숨스tam이 노또 문제 내 체스버다 디르베 춘불롱과 나진데스 칸그르다 피라미네 제츠마산조 나무가 와치조트르 나노 숨우담즈 납노스다 zukan wazus talan quadrada neberenge jan grez xsez nevena tkdishte tangunangul bulla cha wasa shok nusudishte zindes kangrad nanga nosud des chumumne tosunino nosud zukasema someninti mene substatizim swatizimuni shok wa tosumni kujumun dandatide tamko chigasta no zindes pumbudu awakatishku 무슨데선 부자마게 되면에 시주 트레스마 고마가디 에노 수준의 그스데 뜸칭합 나수 조카자자 바이고 천도서 천도이고 우즈웨디 데레데레드는 부다 템파나 무게지즈문에 숲납디 피라 숲슬게제 예문에 이르던 줍디 뭐마소티스타 원당한 그제 불라고 딤버리데베 너무 불라고 태다고 딤버리 참았어 체험은 이제 청았으노 네또 소문이 나서 Zusuko tuyetiyse, Zurmandenese gomenjinase, Luzago vleso tunjutiyse, Vnise vanratiyse, Chenie munjugada vni, Dalana kwazinji, Nangwa de tuusangabe, Zukada nangu yemane subsa, Manesa yizisa, Manesa sujobsese, Lolukro. Nano songeze tu de yez manesa subske son granzona post. Kuchetungu masona, Motogode tuum peuse. 그래서 튼주뱀죠. 나무 예즈만의 숲에서 한번 치우다가 놓은 배. 나가 도패 되죠. 내 드셔 kup해 내 드셔 kup다.
시구데레 뜨고와 이내야 세해 시구라 이내 일로 전부이나 세해 시구 내 롱부여 나세
제일 맞아요. 소카 이코분들은 체즈 예문에서 쓰대고 하루 일하고 되게 뜨부겠다.
When I was a little girl, I learned to hate the sound of my own voice. I remember the first time I was hushed for speaking too loudly. I remember the teachers who would put their fingers to their lips and shush me. I remember my play grandma told me her family spoke to her in a chicken language, and her great auntie from down south spoke like she was singing, but could nobody understand her? My own father once told me his elders used to speak gibberish, like their mouths was full of water. He said, "Our family had a language all of our own. All of us speak broken." Through years of conditioning in classrooms and in rooms with stern elders, I was taught that to speak improperly meant that I was deficient in some way. That not just my words, but my mind was inadequate. My voice would be ineffective. As I got older, I heard the whispers of my ancestors and the stories my daddy would tell. He spoke of how my great-great-grandfather used to speak to birds. He lived by himself in a cabin in the middle of the swampland. We were descendants of men and women who had escaped into swamps, maroons, those who conjured survival in the groves. Their languages, like Gullah and Tut, were cemented into their bodies. Not broken languages, but languages forged as a means to survive, a means to preserve our spirit. Now that I have a daughter of my own, I tell her that her mama comes from tricksters, root workers, storytellers, who survived through this coded language. That her mama had twirled in front of a legless shrine and learned Yoruba to connect with her unnamed ancestors, spoke Tut to conjure them, studied Gullah to honor them. I remind her, you are protected by Mami Wata, by Yemoya, by all the ancestors who dared to crack teeth. Your voice is your power. I tell her that Tataishi, Wakset Tutu Iretsus, Juge Vuvi, Bubai, Ratataish, Tuto Oyurut, Lule Nung Jugai, Jugi, Lulai Kaiki, I, Juge Vuvi, Bubai, Ratataish, Tuto, Yakoyu. Speak louder. This is your birthright.
The lilt of Lamia, the owl. Nestled on the edge of the Reef Mountains and caressed by the Mediterranean breeze, the village of Arkman, inhabited by the Ishbilan and Amazigh community, stood as a testament to a mixture of beauty, desertion, and resilience. Its coastline shimmered under the sun, its walls stretching endlessly, calling to those who sought freedom beyond its horizon. The village is a mosaic of whitewashed homes, narrow cobbled paths, and olive groves, but its heartbeat is fading. Its youth had left, one by one, allured by the dream of migration, leaving behind the village grappling with its dwindling spirit. Among those staying is Lamia, a young lady whose name carries the rhythm of her dialect. The sound of L, soft, flowing, and distinct, is a signature of her Amazigh dialect. It weaves through the words that shape their identity. Awel, Laman, البحر, الملح, الموجات. The elders of Arkman would say that the sound of El mirrored the gentle lapping of the sea against their shores, a sound as ancient as the village itself. Even the name of fishes in her dialect carried the sound El, Isilman, a lyrical reminder of the deep connection between her people and the sea. Arkman, with its mesmerizing seashores famed as the best to savor the real taste of freshly cooked fish. Families would gather along the shores, enjoying meals that celebrated both their culinary heritage and the breathtaking beauty of the Mediterranean. I often wandered the empty streets of Arkman, my thoughts heavy with the silence that now enveloped my home. I would pause by the withered walls of the old schoolhouse, where laughter and chatter in my native tongue once echoed. Now, only the wind carried whispers of those days. My heart ached for the language that is slipping away, just like the young people who had abandoned the village in search of a better life. Our language is like the sea, a wise old woman once told me. It carries our history, our songs, and our dreams. If we let it fade, we let go of who we are. These words lingered in my mind, urging me to speak the lilt of my Tamazight app, for I know that to revive the spirit of my mother tongue, I had to begin with my very voice. With a heartfelt determination, I'm giving my word of honor to the Arkmanian seashore to keep the lilt of my language alive, for my name begins with the distinct sound L. Now, the very presence of L sound in my name is no longer just a letter, it's a promise, a commitment to preserve the identity of my ancestors, to bring life back to the seashores of Arkman, and to remind the world that the lilt of Lamia, like the lilt of the sea waves, could never be vanished. Could never be vanished.
This is a story about how I came to teach a language I knew nothing about. It all began in 2020, during my Erasmus in Spain. I was pursuing a translation and interpretation degree in Castellón de la Plana. I was working with French, English and Spanish, the languages I knew at the time. So imagine my surprise when one of the classes I was looking forward to was taught entirely in Valenciano, a regional language. I asked the teacher for a coursework in Spanish or English so that I could understand, but he bluntly said no. If I wanted to stay in the class, I had to either learn Valenciano, ask for help from other students, or drop it. And, well, I was too shy to ask for help and way too stubborn to give up. So I stayed. By the end of the semester, I wasn't fluent, but I understood most of what was said. Then, during midterms, we had individual interviews in English. At the end of mine, I had a brief chat with the teacher, and that's when he explained to me why he insisted on teaching in Valenciano. He told me about Franco's dictatorship, when Valenciano and other regional languages were banned. People were forced to speak only Spanish, and for many, speaking their language became an act of resistance. His story hit close to home. In Gabon, during colonization, local languages were also banned outside the home. My mom grew up in this system where kids were beaten in school for speaking their language instead of French. She learned to believe that Yipunu, her mother tongue, wasn't useful, so she didn't teach me. That conversation with my teacher made me realize how wrong this all was. I had to do something. That's how I started digging for resources to learn Yipunu. They were hard to find, so I decided to create my own, a podcast called Parlons Yipunu. It's my way of learning while teaching and reclaiming my heritage. I know I'm not the only one who had to reconnect with the language late in life. This podcast is my way of helping others do the same. There's still a long way to go, but with every word I learn, every story I share, and every connection I rebuild, I'm reclaiming what is rightfully mine and was almost lost. Because language is not just words, it's identity, memory, and resistance. With that said, I will leave you with a new expression to add to your vocabulary. Ikengwalyo, or as they say, until the bird sings again.
Sninga. I grew up with this word in my mother tongue, Chostyep, spoken on the Tibetan plateau. It flowed through the whispers of wind in the mountain passes and the quiet hum of my mother's song as she spun wool. I thought Sninga simply meant to listen, to hear words, nod, and follow along. But I wasn't truly listening. One afternoon, as part of a school project to record oral traditions, I visited my neighbor, an uncle whose hands were rough from years of carpentry. He was smoothing planks for a new home floor, the rhythmic scrape of wood blending with the scent of pine. Eager to capture something wise, I held up my recorder and asked him for a proverb. Without stopping his work, he paused and said, "O malo, ngan kirganta snelake yom tadiemnyati." Warming your hands with moonlight? I thought the words were clear, but the meaning slipped away. Frustrated, I turned off the recorder and stormed home. He was speaking nonsense, I told my mother. She laughed from the kitchen. "Snelike yomtad is a proverb," she said, amused. "It means you are asking the wrong person." Only later did I realize perhaps he was busy trying to finish his work before the sunlight faded, and I hadn't noticed. His words weren't nonsense. They were quiet wisdom, gently telling me to wait, to observe, to understand. I had heard, but I hadn't truly listened. That moment humbled me. In Choskep, Sninga means to listen, to ponder, to dream, and to feel with all your senses. This is a thread connecting us to our people, our stories, and the world around us. Sninga showed me that to listen is to open not just your ears, but your heart. Now, it is my hope to carry this wisdom forward and inspire others to listen, to feel, and to preserve the stories that make us who we are.
A cultura alimentar, a par da sua língua, são as que mais identificam um povo. A principal comida tradicional nhungwe era a nsima e a ufa, bachimanga. Comia-se o que a natureza oferecia generosamente. Era comida biológica, saudável e mais nutritiva. E havia um conhecimento ancestral do que era comestível ou venenoso. Também se tinha a noção de que sem a natureza, com ela doente ou empobrecida, eles enfrentariam duras provações. Tirando épocas seca, severa, havia uma autossuficiência alimentar. Nunca foi preciso recorrer à comida europeizada. Com a independência de Moçambique, uma boa percentagem de moçambicanos começou a ter acesso a bens culturais ocidentais. Acesso à educação, ao pão, arroz, óleo alimentar refinado, queijo, manteiga, roupa, calçado. Apostou-se na língua portuguesa em detrimento das línguas locais. Códigos onde estão guardados todos os segredos da etnia nhungwe, conduzindo o país a uma lusofonização cada vez maior que acorrentou Moçambique a Portugal, com ela e a subsequente neocolonização. Depois, cerca de 50, 60 anos depois das independências da África Austral, é a altura dela reclamar a sua herança. Há que reconstruir os países enraizado no solo, ligada à cultura e tradições dos povos locais, como o nhungwe. É tempo de descolonizar as mentes a fim de caminhar para o bem-estar e o progresso. independentemente de onde me encontre, eu, antes de ser moçambicano, português, ou seja lá o que for, sou nhungue de corpo e alma e com os pés fincados em Tete e a cabeça pairando no ar global. Elegi o nhungue na sua tridimensionalidade. Só, língua, cultura, terra, como a razão da minha existência e a motivação que me faz pular da cama todos os dias, cheio de forças, esperanças e de horizontes. A mensagem que gostaria de deixar a todos os Anyungwe é que tenham orgulho em ser Anyungwe. Cabe a cada um procurar autoconhecer-se, tentar encontrar a sua identidade e procurar ser como é, Nyungwe, e não andar a sofrer, a perder tempo, dinheiro, saúde, para ser o outro e não aquilo que é. Deve esforçar-se, isso sim, em ser mundo com o uno, um ser humano cada vez melhor. Gostar-se a si próprio é o segredo do sucesso.
Recently, I saw the image of the Maui headstones from Easter Island on my laptop screen. They made me think about what those stationary stone statues might signify. It reminded me of a recent trip to my native village, remembering walking uphill to my village as a child. I was always curious about the dozens of longzi, ozi, headstones, stones of reverence and foundation, monoliths and other similar figures standing and spread across paths, hills and lowlands of my ancestral village, a settlement more than 800 years old. As I understand, those monoliths are our history and were planted in times when courage, sacrifice, and osho, feast of merit, of sharing individual wealth with the community, were the way to earn prestige, the right to plant those very longzi ozi, and ensure the continuity of community values. I recalled my boyhood memories during my village visit, where once a clan elder reprimanded me for trying to playfully shake those monoliths, and narrated to me with an air of nostalgic reverence that those are symbols of Etoekan and our ancestors. However, on my last trip, I was shocked to find many ancestral monoliths hammered down, some unearthed and used as boulder for internal entrance. I wonder, does the shaken and uprooted longzi ozi hold no more value or any significance? Today, I find our sense of community is eroding. Where have all the values of looking after the weakest and vulnerable gone? Of thinking for the larger good versus the individual quest for glory? I once had a session with a therapist and told tales of my clan and ancestors, their stories to find unsettled land and make a home and a community out of it. They learned to be warriors, clans, and a community. They carved and carried rocks across untouched mountains and mounted them on earth to show their greatness through sharing. and amid changing narratives, the stories of the Longze Oz and their lessons, those very Longze that amazed me as a child, now lie amongst the ruins today. Idekyong eramuren vana yitako chekapenchang, nchungo eroroi vumsorai ezunsorai sitaka. Tona onde vana ekam yitako chang. Ite yudashilo ntia oman lichoke. I don't yet know what values I carry forward, but I do know which values I don't want to lose or be shaken about. What about you?
We buried my grandfather exactly one day after he had died, peacefully in his bed in May of 2020. As we say in the plains of Maasai land, "Ikenon konyek nerora." He had closed his eyes one final time and slept. His parents had named him Samarua, born in a time and a season of plenty. His age mates called him Olewante, which denoted his clan, and his Moran battalion named him Olorashe Longo Otir Moran Lemeakote, the brave one with a striped shield who led his tribe to victory in war. Kaguya, as we all fondly called him, had reached the zenith of his life, had seen colonialism come, lived through it, saw the Union Jack go down in '63, and even lived through the COVID era when he transitioned on to the next life. He had lived almost an entire century in this wretched earth, and now he rests surrounded by us, his loved ones, as the sun of his life set. As we encircled his grave in bittersweet nostalgia, with our tears flowing, clasping the loose clay soil in our shaking hands, everything he always talked about came to me. The beauty of our land, Mishoro Yongovola Yuni. Land is not owned and hence is not given. How he always insisted on the importance of cattle. They who stand on cow dung live forever. We were nourished by them, were dressed by them, and they gave a man his status amongst his mates. I remember how he always said that our existence depended on how kind we were to everything around us. Erisio Maasai, Rankai, the people combined are equal to God. Everything around us had a purpose and was important, and Kaguya had a proverb to explain everything, from the insects to the shrubs in the forest, to the oretity tree that we prayed under, and even the mighty elephants whenever they came around to ravage the trees. I remember how he always insisted we understand why our people had no specific name for land. We call it Enkuluboni, which means soil, or Enkop to mean where we stand on. Land was not owned nor given. It was protected and passed on to the next generation, and the next, and the next. Like he wished, his body was smeared in the fat of his beloved bull, and then wrapped in its gleaming red leather skin before being laid inside a shallow grave just beside his favorite Osogonoi tree, the same tree he sat under for years, receiving visitors from far and wide, chewing his tobacco or blessing his hundreds of grandchildren whom he loved deeply. By burying him in this particular way and in a simple grave, he had completed the Maasai cycle of life that combines the connection between people, land, and cattle. This was the trinity of being Maasai. In this fleeting moment, as the soil flew from my fingers onto his body like confetti, it stuck with me why he gave me and my cousins these lessons on identity. They were the anchor that I required to hold me down at a time like this.
ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਬੇਟਾ ਸਿਰਫ 6 ਹਫ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਆਪਦੀ ਆਬਸਟ੍ਰੀਸ਼ਨ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਮਾਂ ਬੋਲੀਆਂ ਮੇਪਾ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਦਾ ਫੈਸਲਾ ਕੀਤਾ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀਆਂ ਬੋਲੀਆਂ ਸਿਖਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਸੀ। ਉਸ ਦਿਨ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਲੋਕ ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਹੀ ਦੋਸਤ, ਜਾਣਕਾਰ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਸਵਾਲ ਕੀਤਾ। ਮੈਂ ਨਿਊਰੋਪਲਾਸਟਿਸਿਟੀ, ਦਿਮਾਗ ਤੇ ਸਰੀਰ ਦੀ ਤੰਦਰੁਸਤੀ ਦੇ ਅਸਰ ਦੇ ਸਬੂਤ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ। ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੁਝ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ, ਕੁਝ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਇੰਨੇ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਨਫਲੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਈਦੇ। ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ, ਉਹ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਯਾਦਗਾਰ, ਸਾਡੇ ਖੂਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ। ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਮੇਰਾ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਹੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਤੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਜਵਾਬ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੀ? ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚਾਂ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਦੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਨਾਂ ਦਿੱਤੇ। ਸੂਰਜ, ਚੰਦ, ਮਿੱਟੀ, ਪਾਣੀ। ਫਿਰ ਉਹੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਆਪਦੇ ਪੰਜਾਂ ਪਾਣੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਹਰੀ ਭਰੀ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਰਾਜਸਥਾਨ ਦੇ ਸੂਰਜ ਤਪੇ ਦੁਪਹਿਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਲੈ ਗਏ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਅੱਖਰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਏ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੂੰਗੀ, ਮੈਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਾਂ-ਬਾਪ ਨੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਦੇ ਧਾਗੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਦੇ ਦਿਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਜ਼ਖਮ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸੀਂਤੇ ਹੋਏ ਹੋਣਗੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਆਪਦੇ ਬਚਪਨ ਦੇ ਸਰੋਂ ਦੇ ਫੁੱਲਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਰਦੀਆਂ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਲੇ ਬਰਫ਼ਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸੁੰਨੀਆਂ ਸਰਦੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੱਸ ਗਏ। ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਇੱਕ ਤਵੀਜ਼ ਬਣ ਗਿਆ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਦੇ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੁਕੋ ਕੇ ਲੈ ਗਈ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਦਾ ਘਰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਦੱਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਚੱਲ ਗਈ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਦਿਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਮੇਰੇ ਮਾਂ ਤੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੰਧਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੂਰ ਮਹਿਸੂਸ ਕੀਤੇ, ਉਸ ਦਿਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਗਾਣੇ ਤੇ ਫਿਲਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਰੋਈ। ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦੱਸੂੰਗੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਦੇ ਇੰਨੀ ਪਿਆਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗੀ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਲੱਗੀ। ਇਹੀ ਚਾਹਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਤੋਹਫਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹਦੇ ਹੱਥਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਲਕੀਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਨਕਸ਼ਾ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਏ। ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਦੇ ਪੁਰਖਾਂ ਦੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਸਿਖਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ? ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪ ਦਾ ਨਾਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਉਹੀ ਨਦੀਆਂ ਹੁਣ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਤੇ ਸਮਾਜ ਦੀ ਲਾਲਚ ਤੇ ਲਾਪਰਵਾਹੀ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਮਰਦੀਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਜ਼ਮੀਨ ਵੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੂਰ ਆ ਗਏ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ। ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਣ ਤੱਕ ਉਸ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਬਚ ਕੇ ਰਹਿ ਪਾਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ। ਪਰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹ ਆਪਦੇ ਦਿਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਦੇ ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਸੁਣੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹੀ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਬੋਲੂਗਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਆਪਦੀ ਸੋਚ ਤੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਸਵਾਲਾਂ ਦਾ ਦਰਵਾਜ਼ਾ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਖੁਆਇਸ਼ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਾਵੇਗੀ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਕਿੱਸੇ ਦਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਆ ਜੋ ਆਪਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਤੋਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੰਬੀ ਆ। ਤੇ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਈ ਵਾਰ ਕਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਿੱਸੇ ਦੀ ਹੁਣ ਕੋਈ ਕੀਮਤ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੀ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਦੇ ਜਿੰਦਾ ਰਹਿਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਕੀਮਤੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਆ, ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦਾ ਹੀ ਗੀਤ।
सूरज, चंद, मिट्टी, पानी, माँ।
A Tagoe speaker in my class shed tears when he discovered that the Tagoe language, one of over 100 indigenous languages in Sudan, was endangered and the number of speakers has decreased. I could feel his sense of loss and pain. I remembered when I discovered that my family doesn't speak our ancestors' language. In fact, they didn't even know if it belonged to them, connected to them, or they should speak it. I felt like I missed something, a sense of who I am and my identity. How can we hear a voice that is dying or disappearing? This reminds me of the myth of the old eagle that breaks off its beak, pulls out its feathers and claws so new one can grow and be strong again. Like me, I escaped from my home in Khartoum 3 times, moving to different places in Sudan due to war. The last time, I hope it was the last, was the most difficult. I isolated myself in a deep ocean of illusion and depression and doubt, reaching the bottom. Just like an eagle, I plucked all the good feelings and memories I had kept in my chest and threw them away like old feathers. I could only hear the voice of pain, depression, and doubt. I was like an eagle that wanted to fly, but was weak and broken. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know myself anymore. One night, the pain intensified. Suddenly I heard a voice for the first time in my life. There was no one there. It was my voice. It was the strongest and strangest voice I've ever heard. My skin shivered, and I looked in the mirror, my face full of tears, but my eyes were sharp and steady, like the eyes of an eagle. The woman of my dreams said to me, "You are important, you are not selfish. The truth is that you are honest, compassionate, and responsible. You deserve goodness, and you must love yourself from this moment on." I became stronger after hearing that voice. I regained my youth again and got to know myself, loving her even more. I wonder what happens to a person's voice when their language disappears.
Thank you, everyone, for your kind attention. I think it's the second time I watch all these videos, and always they move my heart because they are a piece of the soul and the heart of the storytellers. So I'm so happy and honored to presentate four of them. We will hear them. We will hear their motivations and all the thoughts that they want to say to the world about their languages, their lands, their dreams. First, I want to present Yula Lawa and also Lamiae. We will hear their voices, and then we will also hear Riatung and Maison. They four are with us, and I'm gonna ask one question to Yula and Lawa. They each have 4 minutes to share with us. And then, of course, we will have some participations and wants to hear the echo of the persons who are today joining us in this screening of digital storytelling. Yula, how are you? And also, Lamiae, I hope you are well. The first question is, how has the experience of creating, sharing, and witnessing these digital stories impact you personally? I first call Yula to hear her voice. How are you, Yula?
I am great. Can you all hear me? Wonderful. Whew, take a deep breath. I don't know it's how many times I've watched all these short films, but every time, yeah, different emotions arise and I just get very emotional. But I would try my best to answer my question. So I would try to answer kind of from three phases. So from creating to sharing to witnessing. So when I first joined the workshop and started creating my story, I honestly thought I was just making a short clip, something simple, without much expectation. But once I began, it unfolded into something much deeper than I have imagined. So, first stage creating began when I reconnected with my old dust-covered hard drives. I hadn't touched them in years. Inside were photos, recordings that I had taken more than 14 years ago. The voices of elders who have passed since then, songs of my uncle and aunt during our summer picnic by the river, the sound of children laughing somewhere in the background. As I went through them, I could almost feel the warmth of that sunshine again, smell the smoke from our fire. It was as if time folded. I was sitting in them once more. That's when I realized that creating isn't always about producing something new. Sometimes it's about remembering, about bringing those voices and those moments back into presence so that they can keep breathing. When it came sharing my story with other digital storytellers in the workshop made me realize how connected we are, even when our languages, lands, and struggles seem so different. There is a shared heartbeat that runs through all of our stories. We laughed, cried, and sat in silence together, recognizing the pieces ourselves in each other's worlds. In my film, I had included a few AI generated images that I thought made the storyline stronger initially in my first draft. They looked beautiful. In fact, probably too beautiful. During the feedback session, the organizers gently told me that those images felt a bit out of place next to my real ones. They said, "You already have what you need. Your own images carry more truth." The comment really stayed with me. It reminded me that authenticity doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes the shaky photos, the uneven sounds, the smell, the small mistakes, that's where the real life is. It made me think about how easy it is for technology to smooth over our realities and how important it is to keep our stories raw and human, to trust what we already hold in our hands. When it came to witnessing, through this process, I found myself quietly witnessing my own journey, my growth, my hesitations, my rediscovery of why I do this work. I witnessed how languages holds memory in the way bodies sometimes forget. I witnessed how stories can heal not just individuals, but also the relationship between people, land, and time itself. The whole experience reminded me that innovation doesn't always come with shiny new technologies and high tech solutions. Sometimes innovation is how we remember, in how we listen deeply, how we share with care, and how we witness one another with honesty. For me, digital storytelling has become a way of returning to my people, to my language, and to the word sninga. To listen, to feel, and to dream. And through this return, I think I've learned how to carry those voices forward with care and with gratitude. So I will share this much.
Thank you, Yula. Your work was so inspiring, and also your words here. I think we all learned from watching your story and your creation, and also we are learning hearing you. Also, I want to hear Lamiae with the same question, hearing how has this experience of creating, sharing, and witnessing these digital stories impact you. Lamiae, what you want to say to us, what you can say to us about this work.
Hello everyone here. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for the ELP, the Story Center, and for everyone here. I'm really happy to watch my story again and my colleagues' stories, and to feel connected again through these stories. Actually, my name is Lamia, and I'm from Morocco, originally from the Rif Amazigh community. I speak in the Rif Amazigh tongue. And I'm a PhD student as well. My participation in the ELP digital storytelling has been profoundly a transformative experience for me at the personal level and the collective level. An experience that I can say that goes beyond, what words can express. The thinking, the sharing, and witnessing of my digital story has allowed me to engage with my community and silenced histories, and to reimagine how knowledge, language, and cultural values, our cultural values, and communal struggles, the land can coexist in the digital age through digital tools. Also, for me, storytelling became like an act of epistemic justice. I come from a coastal village, Amazigh village, called Arkman, inhabited by the Ishbden and Amazigh community, of which the beauty and cultural knowledge systems have rarely been acknowledged in mainstream narratives. Our land, with its vast horizon of the sea and its enigmas, has often been depicted only as picturesque backdrop, stripped of the people, the language, the culture, the struggles, the memory, and wisdom that gives it meaning. So through digital storytelling, or this experience, I was somehow able to reclaim the narrative, to show that our coastal village is not just a space of summer visits or transition, but a living archive of songs, especially the hemming. It was the first time doing the hemming, and that hemming comes from a famous song, Amazigh song we play in our celebrations in my community. So I tried to hem that song. So in creating this, I felt I was restoring, or I am restoring, a balance to a long neglected, let's say, cultural values and culture. So the process also allowed me to honor my ancestors, those who were not privileged enough to voice their values or defend their rights or speak up. Their stories were often lost in translation or erased by dominant languages. So the digital medium, or this experience, allowed me to engage in conversation with my ancestors, and to connect or reconnect with the land. So I could weave their silence into sound, image, and rhythm. I realized also that storytelling, especially when mediated through technology, can bridge temporal gaps, and also allows us to speak to allows the past to speak to the present in ways that oral traditions alone might not sustain it in today's technological world. So every clip I edited, every word, with the help of the Story Center and ELP's community, beautiful community, every word I recorded felt like an an act of remembrance, a way of saying we are still here, still speaking up, still resisting erasure, and still, you know, preserving our identity. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all these thoughts. And also we want to hear, we are so honored to have Yula, Lamie, and also we are going to hear Riatong and Mason. And we want to hear not only what impact this work have in the participants, but also how do you see more of this kind of storytelling spreading and making a positive impact in the communities and to other languages and communities around the world. We will hear first Riatung, and as the other participants, we have 4 minutes to hear his thoughts.
Thank you, Yasmin, for opening the space. And yeah, before I start, okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you to ELP, Amanda, Anna, and Laureline, and also to Story Center for allowing the space for me to experiment and see where I am at. So I wrote some notes because I focus more when I write it down. That's what I did. So when I meet someone from a community, I say, oh, Anaha Erekyonga. That means, yes, I am also a people, a human, a community. And to for my introduction, Truyatang, and I am from Nagaland, India, and I was given the name Retang Rarutang Ra, which means the one who conquers many battles, a war, and also someone who reaps the harvest, because our people are agriculture people, and given to me by my grandfather, which was accepted by the clan, by its elders. Its elders and the larger community. In naming me, it was, and this culture of people who are transboundary people who inhabit today along northeastern regions of India and northwest of Myanmar, Burma. And today, like many Kyonglo Tanaga communities, indigenous people, Adivasis, First Nation, and people across the globe have this common thread of storytelling. And I'm seated around a fireplace outdoors with the open, clear night skies. I was nourished through some of the many stories told by my clan uncles and my people. And those memories I deeply cherish, because of which it has planted the seed of imagination, curiosity. And I also had to struggle because I grew up away from the community. However, I had to find nourishment along the way. And true, stories that I once heard as a child of nature existing with spirits, beings, tigers, and people, conflict and fellowship with the environment, it exists no more. It's been gradually replaced and imposed by uniform kind of reality. Reality still to be processed, but those timeless stories of people cannot be erased in a count of century or centuries, or it will be a crime, a crime, a crime of erasing a people's story and their identity. Today, with changing narratives and use of AI already creating and making news information and misinformation, telling of our stories in our own voices in various mediums have becoming extremely important than ever. With my recent exposure to creating and making digital storytelling and stories, and through continuing with this process, I have hope that many people's stories will remain and survive and flourish and attest to the other narratives that will follow. Also, it is no secret that I have always wanted to portray my people's story, our people's story, of raw courage, their pain, defeat, shame, but also of resilience, hopes, and humor. It is also a voice of defiance of counter narratives to the already existing imposed voices. Yet we have only started, and in doing so, we have to learn the ways of other people, of how we understand and communicate to each other without imposing our beliefs on one another. The truth is not one story nor beliefs are same, yet there might be and is a common ground where we can listen, hear, and understand each other. And that space maybe is to watch and observe and make spaces for each to grow in our own stories. And personally, I see digital story nurturing and telling is something I hope is a power tool to carve out the way to each other's heart, or we let the cave collapse. Monsoa, thank you.
Thank you. And also the same question to Mason. How do you see more of this kind of storytelling spreading to your communities and to other language communities, and also making a positive impact?
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin. I hope you can all hear me. So my name is Mason Olenkuruna. I'm from the Maasai people of Kenya and Tanzania. And I want to be, first of all, grateful to ELP and Story Center for introducing me to digital storytelling. And my story, Kawi Yalai, answers the question that has been asked about the spread and impact of digital storytelling in my own community and other communities around the world. My story was answering the disconnect, the generational disconnect of transferring knowledge from one generation to another. So me talking about my grandfather in that story also allows me to talk about the connection that my own community has with the land, with the animals, and with the environment. And so telling the stories or all the things that my grandfather taught me will also allow me to connect back with my identity, finds the wild and domestic animals. And one of the things that really inspired me through this journey is I had a baby girl a month ago, and I've always wondered how she will view the world now that we have these colonial legacies, we have these complexities that we have, and she will grow up in a school where she's only learning English and Swahili. But it's my role as a parent to teach her the ways of my people, because I know people my age who don't know the things that my grandfather taught me. So this has been a personal journey, because now I can be able to use digital storytelling to cover that gap. She can know about her grandfather through her great grandfather through digital storytelling and through other media that I could create from the stories that my grandfather taught me. So with the modern complexities and the colonial legacies that we face, especially in countries where we were imposed on with new religions, new education systems, which have made us lose our traditional systems and our traditional knowledge systems. The digital storytelling can cover that gap, can cover that niche where
we can document our stories. I have stories I have documented. So we can use technology, podcasts, and other things to just pass these stories to the next generation and the next and the next. So this has also allowed me and the Maasai Cultural Resource Center, which I co-run, to pass what we are learning to other endangered languages, not just the Maasai language, which is has a slightly bigger population, but we have bigger problems in smaller communities, indigenous communities, when it comes to language. So me passing this skill to other friends in other communities allows them to revitalize their own languages, and it just passes the light to the next generation of every other community around us, because the Maasai community has smaller indigenous communities around them that have been assimilated, and now they speak the Maasai language, but they had their own traditional language, they had their own indigenous language. So digital storytelling allows me to introduce other language champions from the Ogiek community, from the Sengwer community, from the Yaku community, smaller indigenous communities, to record their own stories, because these are languages that are extremely endangered. So in a couple of years, they might have no people speaking their language. So with digital storytelling, we could help them save their languages. So it has been a pleasure talking to you all, and thank you so much. Truly.
Thank you so much. And of course, we want to hear the voice of the audience. We don't have so much time, so we encourage people, if you want to say something or to ask something, we will have 3 participants with short participations. Maybe we can just open the space to hear if someone has something to say. Of course, Jeffrey, you can talk. Just I want to be very clear with this. Remind that maybe there are other people who want to speak, so we can be very concise and concrete. Thank you, Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey.
David. Hello, Jeffrey. I just want to keep it short. Regarding everybody's digital stories, I'm quite impressed. But long story short, my theme that I wanted to speak about, but it's just a short point, is about community resilience here in South Africa for the Khoi people. We have some kind of a notion that there is now a Khoi commission that Traditional Affairs and Corporate Governance in South Africa is trying to implement, where they are trying to investigate indigenous people, to recruit people in a form of political standout, to have that investigation to be made to say, if you have like 5,000 people in your tribe, you are being acknowledged as indigenous people, which is quite a big cult and a farce, if I can say it like that, in a con, because that is what's going on here. And I noticed it that many elders and traditional and cultural activists in South Africa is resisting and showing resilience towards all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And also I'm seeing a question here from Anando Ghosh. I'm very keen to know from the storytellers if they had a chance to show their stories to their family, friends, or community. What was the reaction? What did they say? And how did they, as storytellers, feel after this? So if one of the 4 storytellers can respond this question.
I mean, I could say something very quickly, but not something very deep. When I first showed my family my story, I've never actually created any content to share with my community in English. So my mom's first word was like, "Oh, it sounds like you actually speak English after so many years." So that was very funny. But people were like, the community, they were like, "Oh, we didn't know that you took a picture of this uncle," and yeah, now he had passed away, but we really love and miss his smiles. So I was a bit scared initially because I included some photos. I did ask their family members, but I didn't know how the wider community will feel to see deceased ones in the video, but people were like very forgiving, and people were like, "This is great. We didn't know that you had these pictures." Some were asking like, "Can I have a copy of this picture? I didn't know." And they were sharing it with a lot of other people as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Yula. And also, as this is a dialogue between the persons who create these storytellers and you, the audience, we want to know if someone of you felt something new or learned something new hearing and watching all these digital stories, and you feel free to share something you want to share here.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Brianna.
I'm also one of the storytellers from the screening, and well, I want to say once again thank you to everyone here today. And well, I want to say that we have to keep doing what we do actually, because it really has an impact on people. Because I showed the video to my mom recently. She'd never seen it before. I only showed it to my dad, and recently to people on LinkedIn and Facebook, but I only showed it to my mom recently. And she'd actually been pondering for a few months, years now, about going back to Gabon to reconnect with her roots. And well, she actually took a step now, and she's in Gabon right now. She traveled like just this Monday, and she told me that when watching this video, she actually felt the need to go back and to actually take a step for herself to reconnect. And I guess, yeah, maybe our stories, even if we see them as like just small things, maybe it actually has quite an impact on people around us. So I think we must share it with the world, and continue trying to preserve our languages and share them with the world. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Brianna. And as we are on time, maybe we can hear our last participant, Doreen Palmer.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay, great. Thank you, Yasmin. I think that I have had the privilege of seeing these stories several times, and each time I'm so incredibly moved. And I'm not only moved by the power and the beauty of the individual stories, but by the connections that have been generated through the process. And I think that's part of the magic of this digital storytelling, or the participatory model, of people finding their stories and doing it in community. And these amazing people are so unique, and their languages and their cultures are so unique, and yet they share so much. And actually, I'd like to, what Yulia said early on, is talking about that shared heart. And so I really wish for the expansion of this kind of sharing and this kind of honesty and authenticity within the Indigenous languages and cultures community, but and beyond, and that if more people can hear your stories, it would be that's how we're going to change the world. So I just thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you all for attending this session. And also I want to remind you in the chat, we have so much information about ELP and about the storytellers. And now I'm gonna give the words to our executive director, Anna Balou, to finish this session. Thank you all.
Thanks, Yasmin, and thank you so much to all the storytellers. It's been an honor to see these stories again and be here with you again. And during this UN International Decade of Indigenous Languages, it's been a special pleasure to share time and space with all of y'all from all over the world, reflecting on Indigenous languages and on language in general and its role in our lives. So I just want to say thanks again to Story Center and the Museo da Pessoa for organizing this conference. And as always, we invite all of you to visit us at endangeredlanguages.com to keep learning and sharing and connecting with people all over the world. So thanks everybody again for being here with us today, and take good care of yourselves and each other till we meet again, until the bird sings again.